I'm Dr. Shelley, a professor of neurology and head of this department at the Yenepoya Medical College at Mangalore in Karnataka. I've had the fortune of being trained in the United Kingdom in memory and cognitive disorders, dementia, and also in behavioral neurology. The month of September world across is celebrated as the World Alzheimer's Month, and 21st September is designated as the World Alzheimer's Day. What have I learned about this devastating and crippling brain disorder, a chronic brain failure called dementia, and more appropriately termed as major neurocognitive disorder? This piece of narrative is what I have gained over 40 years of experience as a physician, out of which 30 years being a neurologist, and having worked in cognitive and memory disorders clinic and dementia clinics across 3 continents. What I would like to share today is not in the route of a typical disposition of knowledge that is replete on dementia. Rather, something that I have gained over a long period of my career, having had the opportunity to work with the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders Society of India since 1996, and also being part of the consultative group of ARTC that led to the first ever Dementia India report in 2010. Now, the theme of World Alzheimer's Day this year is to know dementia and know Alzheimer's. In this regard, much water has gone under the bridge, so to say, since the initial NINCDS ADRDA criteria of Alzheimer's disease was initially formed in 1984. Now, over the course of 30 to 40 years, there have been fundamental shifts in the neurobiological definitions and the reclassification of Alzheimer's disease in 2011 and later revised as the National Institute of Aging and Alzheimer's Association for Alzheimer's Disease to the latest revision framework that has been published in June this year. Having said this, I would like to address a few pertinent questions, perhaps from a public health perspective, as shown in my slide. If we live long enough, will we be demented? Is Alzheimer's disease inevitable with advancing age and aging? Are all memory and cognitive disorders synonymous with Alzheimer's disease? And another quintessential question I would like to ask on World Alzheimer's Day 2024 is dementia preventable? Let me address these questions as I go along with my talk. Age certainly is an unquestionable strong risk factor for dementia and in particular Alzheimer's disease. Now, to explicate the contribution of age factor in the causation of dementia, let me address certain studies that address centenarians and supercentenarians who enjoy life at extreme limits and have healthy longevity with a dementia-free life expectancy. 2 studies come to my mind in this respect. One, the Okinawan centenarian study and the Nun study as depicted in the slide. Now, there are places in the world which has been designated as blue zones, where people have lived a healthy life with extreme longevity, the so-called healthiest, oldest population in the world. What are these blue zones? They are the Okinawan Islands of Japan, the island of Ikaria in Greece, Loma Linda in California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, and Sardinia in Italy. What can we learn from the Okinawan centenarian study or the Nun study, which involved the teaching Catholic sisters of the Notre Dame congregation living in the United States, funded by the National Institute of Aging, and also from the oldest, healthiest people who live in the 5 blue zones in the world? Well, such studies illustrates the concept of healthy brain aging, maintenance of brain health, maintenance of brain well-being, healthy brain lifestyles, living with a coherent sense of purpose in life, otherwise referred to as ikigai, the social connectivity and harmony, which exemplifies the sense of subjective well-being and eudaimonic well-being. Now, these studies of longevity would highlight active, healthy lifestyles as well as certain unique dietary patterns that they enjoy so that they led a life without dementia in their aging continuum. Now, having answered the question that dementia is not inevitable with aging, let me elucidate on brain health, brain well-being, healthy brain lifestyle, all of which promotes healthy brain aging. Now, the protection of brain health and brain well-being and healthy brain aging fundamentally stems from the promotion of cognitive reserve, brain reserve, brain flexibility, brain adaptability, functional brain compensation, enriching brain network connectomics, and ultimately cognitive resilience operating on what we call it as the scaffolding theory of aging and cognition conceptual model. In other words, all these brain healthy lifestyle measures and strategies do operate by bringing about brain molecular, biomolecular and morpho-functional changes to the brain being a social organ. Now, it is imperative for me at this juncture to elucidate on a more encompassive concept of the WHO definition of health. I feel it should include a wellness concept and a salutogenic concept, which actually deals with preservation of normal health and preservation of health in the well, which is depicted in this slide. Unfortunately, the orthodoxy of Western modern medicine and medical scienticism rests on the so-called pathogenesis model that addresses health after the disease has started and how do we fight the disease. My experience tells me to rely more on the salutogenic model, which is a fundamental construct in anthroposophical medicine and functional medicine, which conceptualizes health as the science of promotion and preservation of the health of the well, referred to as the wheel of wellness, and I would call it a health ease concept without dis-ease. I would reimagine brain health and brain well-being by stating that take as good care of the brain as you do to the body, and that will give rise to subjective well-being and brain well-being. Now, as a behavioral neurologist, I would not hesitate to go against the Cartesian duality of splitting the brain-mind from the body. Instead, I would reiterate the need to reinvigorate our understandings of the extended brain, the extended mind, and the 4E cognition theories. Taking good care of the body does indeed take care of the brain, mind, and heart as far as systems biology and functional medicine perspective is concerned. For example, as we have physical activity and enjoy exercising, there is a crosstalk between muscles and the brain through the release of myokines. Adopting a brain healthy lifestyle through brain diet also links the gut and the brain. Dance and movement therapy and music therapy, all these are related to the field of body-oriented psychotherapy. In fact, all these supports a biopsychosocial spiritual model, a holistic creative mind-body network. Now, let me discuss the clinical syndrome of dementia, the many phases of dementia being a complex and heterogeneous, non-unitary brain disorder. Of course, Alzheimer's disease does account for 50 to 70% of all cases of dementia, and about 20 to 30% of dementia is related to vascular dementia and a mixture of Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. The next common types of dementia are frontotemporal dementia, which is a distinctively predominant behavioral and language-based dementia, and dementia with Lewy bodies. It is interesting to understand that now we do understand the role of vascular risk factors across our entire life spectrum and life course to play a vital and crucial role in the pathogenesis of Alzheimer's disease as depicted in the slide here. It is also crucial to understand non-Alzheimer's dementia, potentially reversible cognitive disorders, as well as Alzheimer's disease mimics. So to say, the clinical horizon of dementia is ever evolving and does include autoimmune dementias that have been described by pioneering works of Mayo Clinic autoimmune neurologists in 2000 and 2007. Therefore, it is also not surprising that this year in July, we have described an Alzheimer's disease-like dementia syndrome, which has been termed by the acronym LANS and or late. What is my message? As a clinician, when approaching syndromic dementia, I would reiterate not to Alzheimerize all dementias. I would go further to re-emphasize the clinical adage that when you hear the hoofbeats, think not only of the horses, but the zebras. As far as the clinical detection of this heterogeneous clinical dementia syndromes are concerned, as illustrated in the slide. Now let me address the last question from a public health initiative. Is dementia preventable? Well, as alluded to the Okinawa centenarian study and the NUN study and various other longevity studies, the answer is an emphatic yes. Now, the National Institute of Aging and Alzheimer's Association has proposed a revised criterion for Alzheimer's disease in July 2024, and this acknowledges the various neurobiological stages that occur in the continuum of aging, a life course perspective that includes early life, mid-life, and late life age groups. Therefore, while explicating the root of dementia prevention, we need to understand that the Alzheimer's disease pathology and the underlying brain processes do antenuate the clinical syndrome by 20 to 30 years. Hence, it is absolutely essential to see dementia as a lifestyle disorder as depicted in the slide. The brain changes that evolve across life from early life, let's say 20 to 40 years of age, midlife 40 to 59 years of age, and late life beyond 60 or 65 years of age occurs due to the detrimental risk factors, lifestyle risk factors, behavioral risk factors, as well as vascular risk factors as shown in this slide. The healthy brain across the life course spectrum could evolve from brain at risk to asymptomatic Alzheimer's disease pathology and various prodromal stages, what we call it as pre-mild cognitive impairment, mild behavioral impairment, subjective cognitive impairment, and ultimately the various symptomatic stages of clinical Alzheimer's disease. Now, when I allude on to dementia prevention, what is the evidence base that we have today? As far as I recollect, it was in 2010 that the first evidence for dementia prevention came from the NIH State of Science Conference consensus statement. But it is sad that the report was skeptical on the association of putative risk factors and its relevance to Alzheimer's disease or cognitive decline. Now, as the slide shows, it was the Lancet Commission 2020 report and the revised version of the Lancet Commission, which was deliberated at the Global Conference of Alzheimer's Disease International held at Poland in April this year, which provided strong and irrefutable and compelling new evidence that deemed dementia to be highly preventable. And I would say that this Lancet Commission report would strengthen the concept of brain health and preventive neurology strategies as a public health initiative and reconsider dementia and Alzheimer's disease as a lifestyle disorder, as shown here. Now, the 2020 report has identified 12 modifiable risk factors and 2 more modifiable risk factors were added this year. Now, the Lancet Commission report underscores that 50% of dementia worldwide could be mitigated by controlling these 14 risk factors, the so-called lifestyle risk factors, behavioral risk factors, vascular risk factors, and more as depicted in the slide. Hence, it's never too early or too late to act to make such risk factor intervention strategies during the course of early or midlife. Now, similar to preventive cardiology and the evidence from the Framingham risk score in the prediction of cardiovascular disease, it is now possible to have similar riskometer tools in dementia, and this would include the midlife dementia risk score as well as the late life dementia risk index that can accurately predict the likelihood of older adults developing dementia in their future life course, as shown in the slide. Undoubtedly, the use of dementia risk factors, along with the compelling evidence from the Lancet Commission, does charter a roadmap of preventive neurology in the prevention of dementia, not only as a brain health initiative, but more importantly, as a public health initiative. In this regard, I wish to share an interesting evidence from the World Federation of Neurology, which celebrated the World Brain Day this July 22nd. And they proposed or linked excessive sugar consumption as detrimental to brain health and dementia. And in fact, the German Nutrition Society advocated minimizing the consumption of this white poison. At the end of this talk, it is well known to us that dementia has been termed as the epidemic of our century. Now, how do we tackle an epidemic at a public health, at a society, community level, as well as a global level? And for this, I fervently believe that epidemics can only be eradicated by prevention and not mere therapy. Being indoctrinated in modern medicine and the evidence-based knowledge, I would still put wisdom before medical scienticism. I would therefore conceptualize a harmonization approach, as I call it, to fighting dementia as a global epidemic. And we need to tackle this from 2 fronts. One, at the pathogenesis model that I alluded to earlier, and secondly, at the salutogenic model level for maintaining brain health and well-being, as shown in this elegant slide. On World Alzheimer's Day, I would not do justice to the problem of dementia if I were not to address dementia education. Therefore, I would underscore the need for sustainable education, a pedagogy approach aimed at entrenching brain health education at primary school students, at schools, colleges, communities, for teenagers, adults, and elderly in the science of well-being and brain healthy lifestyle. Also, as Earth citizens, climate medicine and planetary health education are equally important, since pollution and traffic-related air pollution are now well-known environmental risk factors for declining brain health, dementia, stroke, and the increase of psychiatric disorders, which includes depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorders. Until we have effective, curative, or disease-modifying drugs made available both in the developed and developing countries easily and cheaply, I would reiterate that preventive neurology strategies from the cradle to grave, a life course perspective, would remain the holy grail in addressing this dementia epidemic. Towards a sustainable goal for dementia-free life expectancy, which will be a promise for our children, grandchildren, and future generations. Swasthasya rakshanam. To promote and preserve health of the well, enhance the quality of life should be the mantra for brain health and brain wellness. I sign off with a Sanskrit mantra, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Thank you.